Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from Knowledge 16 in Las Vegas. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with Ken Gonzalez. Hiya, Ken.
Hi, Kirsty.
Charlie Betts.
Hi, Kirsty.
And welcome to Walker White from BDNA. Good to have you on board.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Walker, it's a real honor to have you on the All Things ITSM podcast for the first time. So why don't we start with talking a little bit about what BDNA is and does in the market. You know, you've got a very unique value proposition. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, Charlie. First, I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. BDNA is a data platform, Charlie, as you know. We basically help organizations make the best business decisions by delivering the industry's most authoritative enterprise IT data. And by that, we're referring to hardware, software, and the purchases of hardware and software. We do this by creating a catalog called Technopedia, and then a data platform that normalizes data coming from various sources to that common standard. So we create a common language for IT across all processes and projects, whether it's enterprise architecture, through to IT service management, on to asset management, and other ones as well.
Nice.
So, for example, you help get people all on the same page that in this data set, we call it IBM WebSphere version 7.6, and you know, it's consistent because it might come in multiple different ways from multiple different discovery tools.
Right, and it could it's not just a problem associated with it coming from discovery tools, but across the entire life cycle, if you will, right? At the head end of the process where IT planners are trying to choose technologies, and then they hand that to procurement people to go buy it, and then subsequently it gets discovered in the environment. And so you end up having, you know, an apple, a pear, and a banana, but everyone, it's really a peach to everybody, right?
So Walker, one of BDNA's unique value propositions that I've always appreciated is the fact that you keep track of and document the product life cycles as stated by the vendors. And this, you know, is something that becomes very significant in the large enterprises to know and be able to forecast when large sections of the technical estate are likely to need, you know, more money. This is always such a conversation the business welcomes. You know, $50 million worth of Oracle regression testing. You know, but hey, somebody's got to be on top of it because otherwise you're in third-party support and aftermarket support, and then the regulators start asking questions. So
so it's a very interesting one. Is that if you look at what BDNA, how we envision this, the table stakes of our business is really getting the enterprise IT data or enterprise technology data aligned to that standard catalog, Technopedia. And then around that catalog, Charlie, we create content packs or pieces of data that can augment that. And one of those is lifecycle. So general availability date, end of life date, obsolescence date, and current state of support level from each vendor. But we do the same thing for hardware, where we give nominal wattage, physical dimensions, weight, and so on. So the key to be able to align all that additional relevant content and context is associated with first getting everything named something the same, and then we can build this big, if you will, you can think of the catalog as being a fact table, and then just dimensions of data that give us far more context in the decision-making process. So your example of lifecycle is a very, very powerful one, but we just released today the Windows 10 migration content pack. So we can normalize all that data, and then we can tell them immediately, here are all those things that can be migrated to Windows 10, and here's the stuff that can't.
Oh, excellent.
So you can solve those problems overnight.
Yeah,
right?
excellent.
Very, very strong value proposition. Yeah, it's certainly have seen a lot of value in that kind of thing over the years. You know, you need to, you know, there's an expectation that you know what's going on in your environment, and certainly when software comes in, that, you know, the cloud and Agile don't necessarily change it. You still are under some obligation to understand what it is you're running. How about open source? Are you doing much with open source?
Absolutely. The catalog itself has tons of open source data in it. But in addition to that, we've added again, so in that standard catalog, we have, you know, all open source software, free and open source. But we also have added a content pack around open source, which gives the licensing metrics and other data about those open source products. So for example, our customers came to us and they said, look, I'm getting questions from legal about how many products do we have that are licensed under the, you know, LGPL 2.0, right? Because we found a loophole in that. And so with BDNA, again, we normalize all that data, and then we lash on this additional content. We could say, here are all the products in your environment that are licensed under LGPL 2.0. And again, I think you go from being this, hey, there's a fire at the company, to being, okay, the fire is contained, it's a fire, but it's a small fire, it's contained over here by these systems. Where when you don't have data, you spend all your time just guessing.
Yeah, you're just chasing your tail. You do not even know where to start looking.
That's exactly right. You don't even know where to start looking.
There might have been multiple project-driven reconciliation exercises and analysts drowning in spreadsheets of trying to make sense of
Absolutely, and there's no way to, there's just no way to prioritize when you don't have good information. You just can't, you can't make a value-based decision on it. So.
Yeah, it seems like you can have a lot of, for example, in large organizations where the estate can almost seem too humongous to even comprehend. You probably have methods for getting all that stuff in, but what about the smaller organizations? How can they take advantage of your expertise and be able to get their hands around it without having it seem like, oh, it's too costly or too much effort?
Right. So we are, obviously the more data an organization has, the more valuable BDNA is, obviously. Yes. So, our customers are some of the largest in the world, literally the largest customers in the world, from a retail standpoint and other areas. All the way down to organizations that probably have maybe 1,000 or 1,500 total endpoints being between desktops and servers. Yeah. So imagine an organization that size. It's not a teeny organization.
That's
by any stretch of the imagination. At the same time, we also offer the solution for those very large organizations that are very security conscious and so on. They'll put it on-prem and they'll put gated walls around it because we look at literally every piece of data they've got, right?
Yeah,
so
you don't want them getting anywhere else.
Right, don't want to go and they don't want to send, and they also don't want to send 5 billion rows of data to the cloud only to bring them back down to integrate it into other systems. So, but then we have hosted solutions that we use for smaller organizations as well. And I think that breakpoint to your question is that breakpoint's probably around 500 endpoints, servers and desktops combined, where it's like I probably keep track of it faster with the calculator. Now, we also have a lot of customers that don't use the normalization engine or the data platform, but they do use our catalog because we resell it and license it and OEM it into a lot of enterprise architecture tools like PlanView and Mega.
For proactive uses.
And that's the best case, right, where you're on the head end of the process, right? All of this data normalization is because we're, the barn doors are open, right? The horses are already gone. We're trying to corral them all back in. But it's also a recognition that we may never, and I don't think we ever will, be able to completely head that process off, right? There's always going to be the Wild West, so we've got to be able to clean it up.
Right. The data quality conversation is one that's come up several times today. Certainly, what I hear you talking about is, I used to be, and still am to some extent involved with the Data Management Association. And of course, these folks are concerned with things like master data management and data reconciliation and scrubbing and normalization and deduplication and all these kinds of things. But of course, in the IT service management, IT management space, this is a big, significant space. I have thought about it and developed a lifecycle model where I said, well, we've got a technology product lifecycle, and that's kind of where I see you guys playing. And then, of course, if you're trying to reconcile assets and configuration items, that might also be seen as a data quality problem, but it's a significantly different data quality problem. I mean, you're not trying to help people reconcile 50,000 or 500,000 asset records. You're more worried about the types of the assets. This is a Dell DL360, and as you said, the nominal wattage, or this is Oracle 11G. But then people also have all these, but it's the specific license, the specific serial number, which is a problem that's a couple orders of magnitude bigger, but it's also more a product that you can automate more.
Absolutely.
Where you've got to get out and look at all these press releases and
and I think that one feeds the other to your two life cycles, right? If you don't get the bottom of that fixed, you're never going to fix the top, right? So it's a process where if we get clean information about what's in the environment, we can feed that up. But they feed each other too. Right? There's, I don't think you get one without the other. So.
Right, exactly.
I think that whole data quality conversation that we've been having is just, it's critical. Doesn't mean it is the old story of if you get rubbish in, you're only going to get rubbish out. So it's if you get the right information to start with.
And I think there's another bigger impact to data quality, which and again, this goes back to my time when I was at Oracle before BDNA, and I'm at BDNA at Tony for all those since. I spent a lot of time with Larry Ellison, and he said something, and this is one of the things I can tell you and repeat out loud. He said, reasonable people presented with the same information tend not to disagree.
Yes,
And it's
true.
we spend so much time in IT wrapped around the data axle that we often lose sight of why are we gathering this data?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because people don't come to BDNA because they want clean data. They come to BDNA because I'm trying to do something,
With
and
it,
the underlying problem is the data that I have to do it
Yes.
with.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And I can certainly understand, like, many customers might come to you having a problem, wanting to get that sorted out so they
Right.
can move on to the next step. In terms of your customer base, how many are actually now using that as a method for being able to do, I want to start building roadmaps and longer term plans so they can start making life easier for themselves?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, is that this is a part of the kind of the methodology that we're seeing customers asking of BDNA, which is an adoption methodology for this platform. So often, depending on the maturity of a customer might show up with BDNA and say, hey, I've got an asset management problem, and I think it's related to the data. The most mature customers show up and they say, hey, I've got a data problem, and it's affecting all these solutions. So if you look at the way BDNA is adopted in an organization, often will come in and asset management, and then the asset managers will suddenly say, hey, it'd be really nice if the IT planners that are feeding me data about, advanced ship notifications or whatever it might be, had the same name. And so they go off and they get these guys to use it, and then they go get these guys to use it. And the real value you get out of that is you're taking friction out of a business, right? You're getting, 1 plus 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 3, it equals 4.2. And every time you add 1, you're getting this non-linear return of having that common language across the
So
business.
all that consistency
Right,
is what
exactly.
makes a massive
and
difference.
again, then everybody's got the same information, and if you got reasonable people, right?
Yep.
tend
They'll
not
come to the same.
disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't promise they won't disagree,
Yeah.
but we can negotiate on facts, right?
Right. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Walker.
You bet,
It's
my
been
pleasure.
a pleasure chatting to you today.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.